Yo, what's good, guys? We are back at it again with another MLB The Show video for you guys, and today I'm going to be going over common mistakes I see at every rank in MLB The Show that you need to stop making if you want to rank up effectively. Some of these are minor things that, the best players in the world might not do that would help them, and some of them are very major things that you aren't going to make it very far in the rank system if you don't do these things. So real quick before we get into it, if this does help you guys, I would urge you to like and subscribe to the channel. We recently passed 6,500 subs. Want to thank you guys for that. We're going to have a huge content on Friday. We're going to get Team Affinity. We're going to get new ranked. We're going to get a ton of new stuff, and I will be there going over all the new content. So feel free to like and subscribe if you like to keep up to date with everything MLB The Show. So real quick, let's hop into it. I'm just gonna go over the ranked. You can see we're at 985, pretty good record on the year, not anything insane, not like top in the world or anything, but very good so far. So my first category is those of you that are sub 400, sub all-star. So if you are sub 400, you're actually playing on, I believe it's veteran difficulty, which is basically the easiest difficulty you will ever play on online. And there are some very essential things you need to be able to do here. You're going to run into, number one, some players that just exploit base running. They run a lot because it's, what they're good at. They're sub 400 for a reason. It's because they cannot gain points. You physically do not lose points until you get over 400 rating. So if you're running into people down there, chances are you're going to find some base running demons. With that being said, you need to be able to effectively manage base runners. So real quick, we will go into custom practice and I will show you everything I know about how to manage base runners. So we'll do Corbin Burns real quick just because he's in the stretch, which makes him one of the faster pitchers to use for managing base runners. If you do not manage base runners, right? Couple negatives to not managing your base runners. Basically, every single turns into a double because as soon as they get on first base, they're going to take second base. And that hurts you in a lot of ways that you may not be thinking about while you're playing. If you are giving them second base, that is taking away the most common form of double play that you'll get in the game. The most common double play is a second to first double play. You're not going to be able to get those if there's not a runner on first being kept there. Additionally, if you're giving up a runner to second base, they usually score on a single. You do not have to be, you have to be incredibly fast to score on a single from first in this game. You have to be pretty fast to score on a double from first in this game. If you are letting them get onto second base, you are enabling a single to score that runner. It's going to inflate your ERA. You're going to give up more runs and you're going to lose more games. So basically the way we would do this would be team practice, defense, run on first, yes. So I cannot make the CPU run, but I can show you how to manage those runners. The first method is going to be the pickoff. You do this by holding your left trigger and then tapping the base you want. You do not want to hold. Holding does a power pickoff, which is just slower and decreases your likelihood of getting the runner out. Usually if they are stealing and you try to pick off, it's not going to throw them out. If they're taking a one step and you try to pick them off, usually it's not going to pick them off. If they are taking a one step and they're stealing, then it's a coin toss. Sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't. And you only get 2 pickoffs this year. So pickoffs aren't the best way. The best way is probably going to be slide stepping. You do this by holding the left trigger. And before this little animation plays out, when your pitcher looks over, you would want to start your motion. And you'll see that Corbin has a significantly different release there. And it's just a faster, more sped up way of delivering the ball to the plate overall. So that would be how you would do that. If you did want to throw this runner out, the quickest way to load a throw is actually preload the throw. So when the ball is coming in, you're going to want to hit the base that you want with the catcher, and that's going to give you the fastest possible throw meter. And then from there, it's all about execution and throwing down to the base. You can see the CPU wants to bloop our brains out right now. So not the best showing here. But you can see we got a super quick throw meter there. You're never going to backpick guys like that. Speaking of backpicking, what you see right now is the only way you will ever backpick a runner. If you play somebody who routinely takes leads at second base, you would hit down on the D-pad, you would go to your fielding adjustments, you would hit Y or triangle. If you're on PlayStation, you would tell the shortstop to hold at second base, and that will enable you to be able to backpick people on a one-step. They will be basically guaranteed to be out. So that's everything you need to know about managing base runners. That's how to pick off, how to slide step, and how to make shift adjustments to backpick runners. You can practice pitch outs, and pitch outs are almost guaranteed throwouts, but the problem with those are you're giving the batter a ball, which is not really something you want to do, because if you're giving him a ball, then you're getting down in the count, and that's going to boost that batter's average by a ton. Just on average. The second thing I see at low ranks is pitching energy / confidence. When your pitcher gets in the yellow, that is your warning sign that you probably need to be pulling him out of the game. Now, if he's completely cruising, that's fine. You can leave him in. Once a pitcher gets to red, he should not be in the game anymore. Unless you have a no-hitter going and you have multiple runs of cushion, the pitcher should not be pitching on the red. When a pitcher pitches on the red in this game, any way your opponent touches the ball is going to scorch it. They are going to be hitting 100 miles an hour balls left and rights. They're going to be hitting nukes. When a pitcher gets to red energy, that is your sign to pull him. Additionally, if you bring in a reliever out the bullpen and he gives up like a 3-run home run, and then he gives up another home run or a double or something after that, and you see that his confidence bar is completely empty, you probably need to pull him, because that's going to do the same thing as energy. It's going to boost your opponent's exit velocities. It's going to give them like no PCI home runs. So keep an eye on your pitcher's confidence meter as well. Both of those are incredibly important and do affect the way the gameplay flows. And then the last thing I would focus on at super low ranks is not making errors and knowing how to hit your cutoffs. You should not be making fielding errors. So one quick way to not make as many fielding errors is to come over to settings, go to gameplay, come over to defense, and go to drifting ball. If you are on trackball, go to drifting ball. It is the superior mode. On trackball, it gives you that huge big blue line where, you know, when you have really good fielders, it's not that disadvantageous. But when you have bad fielders, it gives you this huge blue bar that shrinks as the ball comes in, and it's left up to you to judge where that ball is going to be. If you're doing that in the outfield with poor fielders, you're probably going to make some errors. You know, fielding errors, throwing errors are more about reps and just kind of learning how the bar moves. You know, very good players still make yellow throws sometimes. It happens. But overall, you want to minimize those as much as possible. Additionally, you need to be hitting your cutoffs. If you are fielding a ball off the warning track in the outfield, you do not need to be throwing that ball all the way to home. I see way too many super low-ranked players that don't know the cutoff exists, so if they field it in the outfield, they throw it to second, and then they throw it to home. Your left bumper, be it on Xbox or PlayStation, I think you call it L1 on PlayStation, I'm not sure, it's your left bumper. That's your cutoff man. Sometimes they do line up in very, very stupid positions in this game, but that's just kind of something that you have to live with, because prime Vladimir Guerrero, prime Roberto Clemente is not one-hopping the ball from the outfield wall to the catcher. You have to be able to hit your cutoffs, and if you don't, people are going to take advantage of you. They're going to turn doubles into triples and triples into inside the park home runs. You need to hit your cutoffs. So, moving up, right? That was all very, very low tier stuff. And I know World Series players that do not manage base runners super effectively. So, you know, you can be lackluster in some of this stuff and still make it a long ways, but it's always beneficial to have the fundamentals down. Our next kind of gap that I've designated is 400 to 600. This is low rank all-star. These are people getting their feet wet in all-star. And the very first thing I would advise against is try not to make mistake pitches. If you are routinely leaving balls down the middle at these low ranks, and you are not pitching A, Randy Johnson, or B, John Donaldson, you're going to give up a lot of runs. So try to stay out of the middle of the strike zone. Players at these ranks are just dying for those pitches. They want to hit those pitches. So try to limit those as much as possible. That might seem like kind of an obvious pitch. Obviously, you don't want to be throwing stuff down the middle, but it's easier said than done. If you are not proficient at pinpoint or pure analog, it may be incredibly hard for you to not leave stuff down the middle. For the most part at these lower ranks, it is on All-Star, so you have to know that the ceiling isn't super duper high and the floor is pretty high, so most people are going to hit halfway decent on All-Star. Most pitchers are going to get lit up on All-Star. So the more you can stay out of the middle of the zone, the better you're going to be. If you can just kind of work around the edges of the zone at these low ranks, you're going to get a lot of swing and misses, a lot of chases, and you're going to hopefully not give up a ton of home runs. But it is hard because it is All-Star, and every pitcher on All-Star is going to get lit up eventually. The second mistake I see kind of in this gap from 400 to 600 is too many strikeouts / bad timing. In general, in this game, you want to be earlier rather than late. It's better to be early to perfect than that later side of perfect to late. You are going to see more hits if you're early. You're going to see more extra base hits if you're early. You're going to see more home runs if you're early. So try to be early and do not strike out that much. At these low ranks, if you can just put the ball in play, people will beat themselves. They will make errors. They will make questionable throws. They'll make red throws. They'll take bad routes to balls. A lot of stuff like that. If you can just routinely put the ball in play, you're going to be good at these lower ranks. Try not to strike out, because a strikeout is not putting the ball in play. You're kind of not putting the ball in your opponent's court, so to say. So you want to try to let these people beat themselves. They are in these ranks for a reason. If you're in these ranks, you're there for a reason. It's because you make mistakes from time to time and you're more prone than others. So try to let them beat themselves, put the ball in play as much as possible. If you need help with timing, I have videos on timing, going over how to use leg kicks to help find your timing. So our next kind of gap I have designated is the 600 to 700. This is where most people get to naturally, right? Most people that are naturally somewhat proficient at the game or may have played baseball in real life, they kind of cap out around here. This is where they start to see a lot of struggle, is in the 600 to 700 range, and then 700 to 800. But I've kind of split them up. I'd say most people are between that 600 and 700. I know a lot of people that get to 700 and don't feel good on Hall of Fame, so they stop playing, or they intentionally tank their rating so they get back down to 600 and play on All-Star. So during this, there's two things I think are important, right? Everybody starts to kind of sweat. They start to try a lot harder at these ranks. So I think you need to learn how to structure your lineup. You cannot be walking into these ranks with your catcher batting ninth. If your catcher's batting ninth, that tells me that you probably didn't structure your lineup. Maybe sometimes, or no, I think the catcher bats first. You know what I mean if you've ever played BR. It kind of auto structures your lineup. That's a red flag. If you load into the game and you have the auto structured lineup, that's a red flag right there. And then learn the meta of the game. Learn what is good. Learn what pitches you want to be throwing, what hitters you're looking for, kind of what stats you're looking for in your hitters. This is where you kind of have to become a student of the game, and kind of disregard some of that IRL baseball knowledge that you may have, and start focusing on what's good. So lineup structure wise, back-to-back lefties is a no-no. You do not want to have back-to-back lefties, because when you start to get to these ranks, you're going to start to run into a lot of Randy Johnson, a lot of John Donaldson, a lot of Al Leiter, and a lot of these other super dominant lefties. If you have back-to-back lefties at any point in your lineup, that is not going to be a fun time for you. Even having a gap of only one in between lefties probably isn't the most advisable thing in the world, just because, let's say Corey Seager leads off an inning, right? If Corey Seager leads off an inning and your opponent brings in Aaron Bummer, right? Bummer's going to get to face Seager. He will have to face Santana, which sucks because look at his stats. He's very good against lefties. But then he's also going to get to face Larry Walker, who is also, not ideal against lefties. You don't have Larry Walker and Corey Seager in your lineup saying, oh boy, I can't wait to hit lefty with them. You have them in there to absolutely bash the skull in of righty pitchers. You don't really want to be hitting with them against lefties. So you want to try to limit that damage as much as possible. So like for me here, I would probably move Larry Walker down and do something like this. That way, he can't just bring in Bummer, right? If he brings in Bummer, he has to pitch to Santana and Mookie, who both, tear the cover off the ball against lefties. And then, if I got 2 hits that inning, he'll probably have to pitch to Larry Walker. So think of your lineup structure, prioritize your lineup structure, have your better hitters hitting higher in your lineup, have your worst hitters hitting towards the bottom. That may sound obvious, but you see a lot of people at lower ranks where they have 4 lefties in their lineup and 3 of them are back to back to back. So try to fix your lineup structure, because at these high ranks, you start to get really punished for having back to back of the same handedness. Other than that, learn the meta, right? Learn what's good in the game. Outlier fastball, good. That's all you need to know, really. Outlier is really good. Having pitchers that routinely run up super hard sinkers, like John Donaldson, is very good. You can see my lineup's a little different at the moment just because I'm on Legend and kind of what's good changes on Legend. But J.R. Richard, right? If I was playing on All-Star, I'd probably run J.R. Richard just for the outlier. You want huge speed differentials. A guy like Paul Skeens looks great on paper, but when you look at these speed differentials, they're not so great. But he also does throw a very hard sinker. A guy like Nolan Ryan, right? Super high, big speed differentials, also has outlier. So just kind of learn these things, learn what is good in the game, learn why Mizorowski is a good budget option, learn why Roy Oswalt kind of sucks. Learn why Yariel Rodriguez is pretty good. These are kind of things you have to start learning. You should know that the fact that Jorge Lopez here has an outlier sinker that averages like 97 miles an hour, why that's a pretty powerful thing to have in game. So the more you learn about the meta, the better you are going to be at these ranks. This is where you kind of have to start prioritizing, getting to know how the game plays. So moving on, 700 to 800 is kind of my next stopgap I've designated, because this is a big jump, but not a super significant jump. This is mainly just about getting more comfortable in Hall of Fame. So many people kind of cruise through All-Star, and then when they get to Hall of Fame, they hit a wall. They may get up to 740, and then they may lose 6 games in a row. And a lot of that is just getting more comfortable in Hall of Fame. Because when you start to get in these divisions, you're going to start to play people that are like World Series players, that are 1,000 players, where they have just been reset to 700 and they haven't played for all of the season. And you've been grinding and you're at an all-time high and you end up matching against them. At that point, it just comes down to who is more comfortable on Hall of Fame. And if you don't feel comfortable, if you don't have the reps on Hall of Fame, you're not going to win those games. So, in the 700, 800, I find a lot of people are just too predictable with their pitching. They're too cookie cutter. They know that a high end outlier is a strong pitch to have, so they spam it over and over and over. They know that a lot of people struggle with outside sliders and how it shrinks the PCI at this rank. So they just spam it over and over. They'll bring in John Donaldson and throw like 5 forkballs in a row with him just because they want to make you look goofy and have bad swings. So a lot of people fall into this very predictable pattern at these ranks. They'll have a lefty on the mound, and against every righty, their first pitch will be an outside sinker. Stuff like that, right? You don't want to be too cookie cutter. You don't want to be too predictable. The moment you're predictable, you've probably lost. And then they also have bad pitch priority. Pitches kind of have danger levels, right? If you are in these ranks and you are just sitting here letting Randy Johnson throw you a high and an outlier fastball for a strike over and over and over and over again to every batter, you're not going to have success. You have to take that pitch away. Yeah, it might mean you might flail and fall over on the forkball, or you might hit some inside sliders that you don't really want to hit. But you have to take those pitches away. If you sit in these ranks and you just let your opponent throw you the exact pitch they want to over and over again, you're going to get fried. You are not going to have fun in online gameplay, so you have to kind of have pitch priority, know what pitches a pitcher wants to throw, right? If somebody's pitching John Donaldson against me, there's 3 pitches that stand out. They want to throw that outlier fastball, they want to throw that outlier slider, probably inside, and they want to throw that forkball. Those are John's 3 best pitches. You're going to get one of them 80%, 90% of the time. You have to prioritize hitting those pitches. And more specifically, you have to hit off of the fastball. You cannot let him throw you the fastball over and over and over again. And then we have our final range. That was not English. I don't know what that was. We have our final range here, 800 to 900. So this is probably the sweatiest rank in the game, other than pushing for like top 50, something like that. Everybody here is competing for the grand prize of making World Series and selling these cards. The earlier you make this push in the season, the sweatier it is. But it doesn't really clear up too much towards the end of the season either. So my main tips for doing 800 to 900 is custom practice. If you are not queuing up custom practice offline before you hop into games in these ranges, your opponent probably has an advantage because they probably are doing that. That you need to be playing at your peak priority, your peak level when you're at these ranks. They're going to be hard. You're going to play some people that are very good. You can be 820 and match up with 1,000 player. You can be 890 and pushing for your World Series game and match up with the top 50 player. That's just how it is. And if you want to have any chance at all, you probably have to be in custom practice. You probably have to be getting very comfortable on Hall of Fame. You're not going to be able to be a career 700 player and just go on a god run and get to 900. It's not going to happen. You're going to find people that are better than you, and they are going to beat you down. You have to be in custom practice, getting more comfortable on Hall of Fame. And then base running perfection, I have written down. You cannot be making base running mistakes at these ranks. Really, I could have said that for 700 and 800 also, but there's still kind of wiggle room. Most of your games between this 800 900 rank are going to be decided by probably 4 runs or less. Most people hit very well, especially with the amount of fluke and foul balls there are in the game in general this year. You're seeing closer scores. Previous few years, I've had plenty of games where I'm not mercying somebody, but it's like 8-1, 9-2, something like that, and that's just kind of the score from like the 5th inning on. Those games don't really exist this year. There's always going to be some fluke, there's always going to be a bunch of foul balls, and there's always going to be some no PCI home runs. You're not going to get cakewalk games. Most of your games will be decided by 3 runs or less, something like that. So if you are costing yourself runs on the base pass, either by not going when you can or getting thrown out when you had no chance of ever scoring, that can cost you games at these ranks. So you kind of have to learn the base running. If you are in these ranks, you've probably had a lot of reps. You've probably played a lot of innings. You need to have base running perfection. You need to know where your batters can make it to. If not, then you just need more reps, or you need to change cams. I know everybody loves to be on dynamic. I'm on dynamic this year because I'm not sweating my brains out. But if you told me I had to play for money, I would be on MVU play offense high. This gives you the best idea of where your base runners can make it to based on where the ball is hit. The moment you hit the ball, you know exactly where it's going to be. With like 90% certainty if it'll be caught or if it's going to get down. So this is the sweatiest view you can play on. This is going to give you the best idea of where the ball you just hit is going to go and how far your base runner can make it to with that. Also, base running goes without saying. If you're at these ranks, you should probably be running with the analog stick. You do not need to be running with the bumpers. If you still want to tag with the bumpers, that's something. But in general, you want to be running with your analog sticks. And then, if you're going to make 1,000 push or something, at that point, it's more so really about legend reps. It's kind of similar to the Hall of Fame reps, except at these levels, you can make it to 700, you can make it to 800, you can make it to 900 by still having gaps in your game. To make it to 1,000, you kind of have to be pretty proficient at everything, and you have to be really comfortable on legend, which is the highest difficulty, obviously. So at that point, it's just about being consistent. It's just about getting down that highest difficulty and learning how to hit those super top end pitchers like John, or like Randy, like Pettit, people like that. So yeah, guys, that is the most common mistakes I've seen. If you can fix all this stuff, you're gonna rank up in no time. Till next time, peace.